Thank you for being here. We're so excited to be here with you today. So hopefully if you've attended our other two presentations, we're going to today talk about 7 simple strategies for responding to behavior. And there are going to be a couple of videos that we are going to show. So we just want to let you know there will be Spanish subtitles on the bottom of the videos, but if you require closed captioning, just a reminder that you can do that on Zoom. You can select live transcript or closed captioning on Zoom so you can see the content that's on the video. So we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you for being here. Let's start with our first slide that doesn't seem to want it. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is exploring positive behavior intervention supports and restorative practices, which we just shortened to PBISRP because it's a lot quicker to say. We're going to review 7 simple strategies to respond to behavior. And then we're also going to explore ideas on how to maximize connections with your children. I would ask, I believe there's somebody that's not unmuted. I mean, that's not muted. If you can please mute yourself, just so that we can hear, everybody can hear clearly. Ok. Si por favor pueden apagar su micrófono. Si no están hablando, por favor, apaguen su micrófono para que podamos escuchar bien. Gracias. Okay, so we're going to go into the next slide. So we always like to begin, if you've seen our other presentations, we love to do check-ins. We're all about seeing where everybody's at. So if anyone wants to type in the chat, today we have these beautiful plants. Are you thriving and growing? Are you feeling a little rough around the edges? Are you like number 3, feeling bold and outspoken? Are you like our little plant in the corner, number 4, blooming at your own pace? Are you like plant number 5, going through a little bit of a growth spurt? Or are you plant number 6, still a work in progress? So if anyone wants to share in the chat how they're feeling, we'll give a little bit of moment for that. See things in chat, okay. Right. Or if anyone, the same amount of ability people can unmute and share in this one. I always forget. Okay.
Yes,
They can. Okay, so if anyone wants to
they're
unmute.
actually sharing, but it's going directly. They're just sharing with the hosts.
Oh, got it. Okay, okay. So thank you to those that shared, and then as well, if if you want to just kind of keep in mind which one you're in, and if you are maybe a little rough around the edges or you know, having a bit of a difficult time, we do hope that your day gets better and then you get support and turn to the people around you that help and you know, make things better, right? That's what we all need. So we all, again, love to start with a grounding activity. So this is our mindful grounding. It's a 30-second bubble. You're gonna just follow the instructions on the video. When the I think it's when it gets small, you breathe. I don't know. I don't remember. Let's just see where it goes. It takes us 30 seconds just to kind of bring ourselves into the space. If it's been a difficult morning, a hectic morning, let's just take a moment to do some breathing and really just kind of, you know, inhale positivity and exhale negativity. So I'm going to start with the video. So breathe in as the bubble gets bigger, hold, and breathe out. Thank you. Hopefully that grounded us a little bit. I love the sound of running water. It's so relaxing. So hopefully that brought us a little bit into the space. We're going to go ahead, and you've seen this before. This is our superintendent strategic plan. He's got various pillars. academic excellence, engagement and collaboration. What we're going to talk about today is really going to focus on pillar 2, which is joy and wellness, really looking at the whole child well-being, strong social emotional skills, and welcoming learning environment. So I will remind participants, if you're here, please go ahead and mute yourselves so we can hear the speakers. Thank you so much. Again, if this is your first time hearing us, we are from PBIS RP, and really just what we want you to take away from this is that it's evidence-based. It's an approach to discipline that really moves away from punitive consequences to promoting equity and accountability. So we use a 3-tiered framework. We have restorative practices embedded in all the work that we do. And then the way that we combined positive behavior intervention supports and restorative practices.
Ajá,
Yes.
pero ahora chécamelo cuánto dinero
Por favor,
ahí para que yo vaya viendo
por favor, si tienen su micrófono encendido, si lo pueden apagar, por favor, para que podamos escuchar bien. Yeah, just a reminder, if you have your you're unmuted, to please, yeah, mute yourself. Okay, so the way we combine positive behavior interventions and restorative practices is with these 4 unifying features. And again, in what we're going to talk about today, you're going to see that these are all embedded in the work that we do. The first one is creating expectations, having expectations that are clear and positively stated so that our students know what we want from them. The idea of 4-to-1 connection over correction, which is that every single one of us should experience positive interactions at least 4 times more than corrective actions. Community building activities, which we covered in our last presentation about really building community with our families, building community in the classroom so that our students are accountable and feel connected and like they belong. And then our checking in and checking outs, which we did earlier, right? Like checking in to see where everybody's at and then providing support and additional support if needed. So going to our next slide here. You've seen the triangle. This just talks about the way that we tier support. Today, we're going to focus on tier 1, which is a support that all students should have at all times. And just a reminder that we tier the support we give to our students. We don't tier students. So we don't have a child that's a tier 3 child. We have a child that maybe needs additional support depending on the area. And we really just want to make sure that we bring that point home. So we are going to start with a video, and what I'm going to do is stop sharing this way and start sharing another way. Give me 1 second. I transition to a different. Okay, let's see. Too many screens going on. Let's see, where did we go? Share screen. We're sharing this one.
You're doing great, Anna.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to share this. And again, as a reminder, there will be Spanish subtitles on the bottom. If you need closed captioning, please feel free to turn it on your Zoom controls. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started.
Kids often don't have the brain development to contain their own big emotions. Their frontal lobe isn't fully developed yet, and they honestly can't contain their emotions the way we'd like them to. But adults, most of us, can do a lot better with that. So why is it that when our 3-year-old freaks out about their blocks falling over, and they're rightly devastated over it, we judge that? Oh, they're overreacting. Oh, they're making a big deal over nothing. Get over it. It's because our frontal lobe is well developed. We're logical. We know that blocks falling over is really no big deal. But a young child doesn't know that. They're rightly upset and freaking out over something that's devastating. To their brain development, it's worth freaking out over. So why is it that we don't really empathize when a kid has a tantrum? Oh, it's just a tantrum. He's just overreacting. But when our best friend comes to our door, freaking out, essentially having a grown-up tantrum, we offer her a hug, we give her a cup of tea, and we have a listening ear for her and a shoulder to cry on. Why is it that a grown-up who has the frontal lobe to contain her own emotions, right now she's lacking it, I'll admit, but she does have it, why does she get our comfort, but our toddler freaking out gets our judgment? Oh, get it together. It's no big deal. Why is that? He can't contain his own emotions, and she can, although she's not doing it very well right now. Why does she get our empathy and he doesn't? I'll tell you why. Because empathy is about relatability, feeling with someone. We essentially are her, and that's why we get her. We're not 3 years old. We don't get how a 3-year-old feels. We don't do it on purpose. We just honestly have trouble relating. And that's why we need to work harder to have empathy for our children. Empathy, it matters.
Thank you. And now we will turn it over to my fabulous colleague, Mary Ann. Let me share the news. Go back to the other screen. I'm going to be so good at this by the time this is over.
I think you're so good at it now.
Okay, here we go. All righty.
Okay. All right. So as you could see from the video, connecting to others is critical in order to communicate as effectively as possible. And 4-to-1 connection over correction is a method that that PBIS RP encourages, and it's basically having 4 positive connections over every 1 correction. So it's underlying all of the work that we're going to be introducing to you today. And I want you to keep in mind that some kids and some adults need even more than 4 connections, more positive to every correction. So let's take a closer look at the 4 in 4-to-1 and the why behind it all. So this slide is a little bit geared towards schools because we are presenting these to school staff and encouraging this 4-to-1 at schools. So the whys include, I'm going to start at the bottom in the pink because I think that's the biggest one, that it builds trust and strengthens relationships. So if you think about yourself, if somebody's coming at you with generally critical kinds of comments, you're not going to have as good a feeling towards them. So we want our kids to have good feelings towards you, and that comes basically with recognizing what they're doing right. So you're building trust.
Están creando confianza
You are also up in the
también
in the top right left, I guess, sorry, developing a strong sense of belonging. So your child really feels like they're connected to you, to the family, to the environment. You create a more positive and caring home environment. Same works in the classroom. It just feels like you're more cared for when you're given positive feedback. And it establishes a sense of safety and openness. So that your child basically feels like they can do things, take a try at things, that they won't be criticized for them, that you're going to be, it's a safe place to make mistakes, which is basically how we all learn. And it connects to promoting a growth mindset that you make mistakes and that's how we learn. And in the bottom there, it says increases academic engagement and on-task behavior. At home, we'll focus on the on-task behavior. That's what you really are wanting to get out of your child. So basically, an example could be like, your room looks great. Thanks for making your bed this morning. Or I really appreciate that you left your phone off during dinner tonight. I enjoyed connecting with you. And then with 4-to-1, we have to kind of, and with all of what we're talking about, look at what pushes our buttons. So Yeah, there we go. Okay, so just looking at this, what pushes your buttons? And I'd love if in the chat you could share your ideas so that we could hear what pushes people's buttons. And Miss Saint Amand, if we don't have access to the, if you're seeing something in the chat and you could speak it out, that would be great.
I'm seeing from Miss Saint Amant, Miss Ellen being ignored, McCall and Waldo eye rolling, lack of sleep. I'm right there with you on all of these.
Kind of a lot of those push our buttons, and they may push your buttons at different times of the day. End of the day may be more difficult for you, or maybe the mornings are rough. And so it's good to be aware of what your buttons are. And remember that some of these same buttons trigger our children as well. So before we respond to our kids, let's make sure that we are self-reflective and recognizing if our buttons are pushed, and working to regulate ourselves. So before we respond to behavior, check yourself by asking, am I okay? How am I feeling right now? And if you need a minute to take a breath, you take that minute. And kind of think, am I making an emotional response or a rational response? That's an important one, because the emotional responses tend to be more escalated, more maximized. And how might bias be impacting my decision making? So am I particularly annoyed with this child right now because of something they did earlier? So we can best support each other and our children when we're calm and when we're aware of ourselves. And let's take a look at some of the things that push your child's buttons, and consider what you notice about when they get triggered. Are they the same as yours? Let's share out in the chat, what pushes your child's buttons?
I was hearing, being here, yelling or being ignored, sometimes asking them a question pushes a button. Very, very true. Homework, getting ready, chores, homework, yelling or being ignored. Sometimes they'll speak loudly, especially if they didn't sleep well, or if I guess the parent didn't sleep well. Taking away electronics, being told no, telling them what to do, telling them to do stuff that they don't like, cutting off Wi-Fi, that's a big one. That pushes my buttons. Paying attention to other adults while not paying attention to them. When they're nervous or anxious, fatigue, hunger, not letting them do what they want. Those are some of the things that were shared in there, Marianne.
Okay, thank you. That's amazing. And some of you came up with things that are not on the list, which I'm happy that you know your child that well. And I want you to just reflect for a moment on why it might be important to be aware of what bothers your child, and how you might use that knowledge that you have to respond when you respond, to have that awareness. It generally helps us to be more rational, because we're empathetically thinking of our child, and understanding them better makes us respond in a more rational way. So we're going to move into our 7 strategies.
Okay. And so here, just before we get into that, thank you, Marianne, it's just really understanding, right, that behavior is a language, right? Behavior has a purpose. Our students are trying to tell us something with their purpose. There is a function for their behavior. And then the other thing to know about that is that behavior is learned and it can be taught. So in us as adults, it's important that we help students find a more effective way to communicate to get their needs met. So maybe the behavior they're engaging in is not, it could be a little problematic, but it is serving a purpose for them and it's working for them. So how can we show them like a better, more appropriate way to communicate their needs? And then we really just want to highlight here that we must always respect our students, right, regardless of their behavior. And again, I'm sure we've all heard this before, but really learning to separate our children from the behavior, right? So we're going to go ahead and talk about the 7 strategies. We're going to go one by one when we respond to behavior. And these, as you'll see, there's different times to use each of these. You're probably already using a lot of these. So this might just be like a good refresher for you on some of the ones, and then you know which ones work with your children and which ones are the ones that you want to use depending on the situation. So let's go into the first one. And this one's so important, right? It's observing verbal and non-verbal messages. So again, not just looking at what our students are telling us, but also what their body language is saying. It's a really great strategy to understand their body language so that we may respond in a way that does not escalate their behavior. And so just to give a little bit more breakdown on the communication, right? There are various ways that we communicate. If you look at the pie chart here, I think it's really fascinating. If you look, the smallest part of this pie chart is words. 7% of the way that we communicate is through our words. But let's look at like the big part of the pie here. 38% is the way we communicate with our voice, our tone, when we pause in between what we're saying. And then 55% are our body movements, right? The eye rolls, the way that they look away.
Altavoz.
Si por favor pueden apagar su micrófono para que podamos escuchar. Muchas gracias. So again, 55% body movement. This is really, really important. And it's important to know from your child, right, how to read their body language and how to respond appropriately. So kind of connected to body language, you want to talk about personal space. Oops, I went too far on the Spanish one. So also recognizing for ourselves, right, if we're looking here at the colors, so the 1 to 15 feet, sorry, 1 to 1.5 feet, that's probably how close we are being comfortable with someone that we're intimate with, right? Maybe with our someone that we know well, someone in our family. And actually, before we even break this down, we understand that this varies from family to family, right? There are families that are very comfortable with close personal contact, families that are not. There's cultural differences as well. So just being aware and recognizing what everybody is comfortable with and what you as a parent are comfortable with, because maybe someone standing in your face might be one of the triggers, right, that pushes your buttons. Same for your student. So again, understanding, what is your comfort level with someone that you're close with versus the yellow, which you'd be like a casual or a personal acquaintance, and then more social, right? In social situations, what we're comfortable with, and then in public situations. And then of course, we can't ignore the impact of COVID, right? So we're also looking at keeping our distance from from others, making sure that we're safe. So really understanding proximity and what is like my comfort zone, how comfortable I am with letting someone close to me, if it's a family member versus if it's like a casual acquaintance, right? So a way that we can read what people's comfort level is with their personal space is really, some of these are pretty basic, right? So a person, you're getting close to someone, they're looking away when you're talking to them. Maybe they're putting their head down, or you see that they tense up. A person might become like stiff, or maybe a child might be really fidgety and start kind of squirming around. Or then there's a very clear get away from me, right? But if you see a person backing away, if they're moving their feet, if you come close to them, and then definitely facial expressions, right? If they look annoyed, uncomfortable. So just really understanding what our students and children are comfortable with. If we know that getting up right next to them is going to be a trigger, then that's something that we need to keep in mind when we try to respond to a behavior. So just always being aware, not just of our own children's comfort with space, but also our own. That will help avoid a lot of like escalating behaviors. So we want to do a quick check connect to see what you all think. So if you want to type in the chat, what are some ways that your child or children use body language or tone of voice to communicate with you? So thinking about either proximity, physical behaviors we see, tones of voice, what are some ways that your children communicate with you or with others using body language or tone of voice? So we'll see if anyone writes in the chat. Someone wrote, my child goes mute when uncomfortable. She becomes nonverbal. Thank you for sharing. Grunting, tone of voice. Thank you, Ms. Ramos. Throwing stuff, cultural proximity. Oh, thank you. Yes. Rolling eyes and closing their door. That's a big one, especially for teenagers. Rolling their eyes, putting their head down, diverting their eyes. Taking my hand or giving a hug. Oh, I see that. Okay. Rolling eyes, grunting, looking down, stomping the feet. Yes, excellent example. Their eyes or like a twist of the mouth, pretending they don't hear us. This is a really good one. We all have the same child, I see. Change of mood. Getting close. Yes, there's a little bit of jealousy, right? If you're getting close to mom. A little bit of jealousy, you're getting close to dad, tone of voice, start making a fist with hand. These are great. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, so we all know, right, the way that our students communicate, especially when they're uncomfortable or when they're starting to get upset, pretending they don't hear. Yes, a button for McCall. Thank you. Okay, so I will go ahead and turn it back to Marianne.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing all of these. Sometimes it's difficult to talk about some of the less desirable qualities that our kids have. So I appreciate your vulnerability and your comfort sharing with us. What we found through all of these workshops is that really the best help and information comes parent to parent. So appreciate this, and hopefully you see things that other people are seeing and you recognize, oh, my kid's not the only one. So our second strategy, I'll move into that, is providing verbal and visual reminders. And so many of us are what are considered visual learners. We learn best when we see something in action. You can tell somebody something, lecture them on it, but until they see it, it doesn't really make sense. So we want to use that opportunity to teach our kids and reteach. And here are some examples of how verbal and visual can work. So verbal might be, please complete your homework. And the visual would be having a designated work spot and supplies that are needed right there so they know what to do and where to go. Please set the table might be a verbal reminder, and the visual might be, let's put the fork on the left side of the plate. Although that still sounds verbal to me. The visual might be you setting up the first place setting and have your child follow what you're doing. Verbal might be, please unload the dishwasher, and a visual might be a little sign that says clean on the outside of your dishwasher. And then we're going to move into strategy 3, which is providing wait time. And the idea with wait time is letting your child process the task. 5 to 15 seconds might work before you restate the expectation. I saw in the chat several parents had said that the first person said their child actually goes mute when they're spoken to or when there's a behavior issue, and several people said that their child stops talking. So give them that time. They may just need a little extra time to process what you're saying or move through their feelings. Give them that time. Try to be sensitive to it and empathize that they're having difficulty. And you can say, you know, I'll wait for you to be ready. And then wait. And it feels awkward. But it is a strategy that just giving them that time is a good strategy to address behaviors. So let's do a check and connect. When could you use wait time to support your child? What times does that seem like it might be a good idea? If you could put your thoughts in the chat. So somebody said, it drives me nuts when your child takes time to respond, but doesn't communicate that they're finishing something and then we'll do it. Yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a power play. And you can address that. Can you speak? Can you say something before, so I know what's going on in your head? Because I'm not a mind reader. So when you give them an expectation about a task, that is a good idea, a good time for wait time. Bath time or homework resets. Yeah, those transition times are really good to give them 5 to 15 seconds to just kind of think it out. When you ask them to put their phone away, right? Any of us, we have trouble like just immediately, boom, dropping the phone, but giving them a few seconds to finish up what they're doing, transition out of it. I see doing homework, chores. Cuando él me dice, trying to translate, when you ask them to finish their homework?
When they say they already finished their homework.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, great. All right, great. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm going to pass it back over to Anna for strategy 4.
Thank you so much, Marianne. And again, thank you to those of you there that are sharing in the chat. It's really helpful to see, what we're all going through and what are, even to learn from each other, right? The good times when we can use some of that wait time when responding to behavior. So we are moving on to strategy number 4, which is offering choices. I'm going to do that thing again where I stop share so I can show the video in a larger screen. So give me one moment. Let's try to do that. And of course, now what I need to share disappeared. So 1 second. Let's see. This one was not as easy as the last one, but that's okay. We got this.
Again, Anna, you're doing really great. And
Thank you.
I'm so glad it's you trying to figure technology out, not me.
All right, here we go. Let's try again. Share. And as a reminder, there will be subtitles in Spanish on the bottom, but please turn on closed captioning if you need the text underneath. So we're going to go ahead and show the video now.
Welcome to Helping Your Child Learn to Communicate. I'm Heather Hayward, a speech-language pathologist. In this video, we'll talk about the strategy of giving your child choices. When you give your child choices, it means that you present them with 2 options when asking them a question. This serves 2 purposes. It takes some of the pressure off of your child to formulate an acceptable answer, while at the same time still requiring that they respond. Here is an example of giving your child choices. It's time for a snack. Would you like a banana or an apple? Banana! Great, here you go. It's important to only provide choices when your child actually has a choice. Don't say, would you like to pick up your toys? This question implies that your child could say no to picking up toys, Instead, you could try, would you like to pick up your cars or blocks first? Giving your child choices gives them a feeling of control. It takes the pressure off your child to come up with an answer, but still requires that they provide a response. You can support your child's communication even more by providing visual options for them to choose from, like in the snack scenario when the mom showed him an apple and a banana. I hope this video has helped you better understand the strategy of giving your child choices. When you give your child choices, you are helping them become a more successful communicator.
Okay, thank you. So let's see if I can do that thing again. One moment. All right. Go to after the video. There we go. All right. Almost there. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. Share. Sure. Okay. All right. Let me make sure I'm sharing what I'm supposed to share. Okay, here we go. Let me move on from the video.
Welcome to
Okay. So back to the idea of offering choices. So hopefully the video explained a little bit what we're about to talk about. But giving the child choices is really important, right? Because it's putting the power in them, right? Oftentimes, especially when you're a child, everyone's telling you what to do, and you really don't feel like you don't have control over your environment. So this is a great strategy, a great way to give children the sense that they have control, but you're dictating what they're doing, right? You're just giving them a choice between two options. So with this, just really make sure that the acronym we use is KISS, which is keep it short and simple. So I want to keep it under 5 words, right? If students aren't going to hear if we go into a long dissertation about what we want them to do and why, right? So keeping it short, make sure that it's reasonable, that it's something actually that our students can do, and make it fair. So you want to have both options be acceptable. And so you don't want to say like, you don't want to ask it like a question like, do you want to clean your room? Because we know what the answer is going to be. I mean, I never want to clean my room, but I have to clean my room. So if we tell them, do you want to clean the room? Anything that gives them a yes or no option is not going to work. So what we want to do is say instead, do you want to clean your room now before dinner, or do you want to clean it after dinner? Or do you want to pick up your Legos first, or do you want to pick up your cars first? So in that instance, we're asking them to do what we want, but we're giving them the choice as to how they go about doing it. So think about when you do ask your children what you want from them, giving them the idea of like giving them a choice between a couple different tasks, giving them a choice as far as the order, like you could do this first and then do this next. Giving them a time frame, right? Can you do it between, now and when we go to bed? Not can you, but you can either do it before dinner or after dinner, like I mentioned, and then even providing incentives, right? So if it's something that they want to do, then you can say, well, if you, you can read, I'll let you read, your favorite chapter of Harry Potter after you do this. So even giving them choices as to, or do you want to read it now, or do you want to read it, after dinner? Sorry, I keep giving the dinner option, but yeah, just making sure that we have choices that they can do and choices that are fair, and giving them the power to decide, right? Really, really important. So let's do a quick check and connect, because we love to do that. So let's hear from you. What are some ways that you might offer choices to support that positive behavior? So maybe a task you want your student to do. What is a way that you can, or that you maybe are already offering choices to your students when you want them to do something? So let's see what we can learn from each other here. Give a moment for people to share. And look, okay, I see the chat now. Hello, Miss Gabriela. During mealtime, thank you, Mr. Campbell. When he does homework, he can choose which one to do first. That's a great idea, right? So if they have like math and English, giving them a choice, you want to do your English homework first or your math homework first. And again, we're getting them to do what we want, but we're letting them choose the order, right? Screen time. Yes, thank you, Miss Christine. Only ask once, twice at best to do a chore. Perfect. And then even when we talk about chores, Miss Sandy, maybe if there's a couple chores, right? Do you want to sweep up or clean your room? And then they're deciding which one they do, but we're still getting them to do what we want. Asking them if they want to do their homework first or put their toys away first.
Yeah, ready?
If you can please mute yourself, si por favor pueden apagar su micrófono para que podamos escuchar. Okay. Again, we'd like,
Vamos a ir aquí, vea, Marlene.
si
Bueno,
pueden, si puede
Ay, esa
apagar,
banda western.
si pueden apagar
ahí
su
adelante.
micrófono,
Sí.
por
Ay,
favor.
no, mejor todavía. Vamos.
Let me try again. Si por favor puede apagar su micrófono, señora, para que podamos escuchar. Oh, gracias. Okay. Alrighty. Would you like to brush or prepare your clothes? Oh, brush your teeth, I'm assuming, or prepare your clothes, clean your room, or do your homework. And we have a parent here that says that they're learning, they weren't offering choice. So this is great. Thank you so much. Okay. And then, yes, you could definitely use it when your child doesn't want to leave a play date, a park, or anything fun, right? So again, giving them choices about, do you want to, leave in 5 minutes, or do you want to, I can't think of an example for that one, but yes. Like, yeah, do you want to go on the slide or on the swings for the 5 minutes before we leave the park? There we go. Okay, so thank you to those of you that shared. Go ahead with the next one. Strategy number 5. So giving a start request rather than a stop request. And we talked about a little bit about this when we talked about expectations, really telling our students what it is that we want them to do versus, telling them what we want them to stop. So if I were to tell you all here right now, don't think about French fries. Like, really, don't think about French fries. Don't think about them. Don't think about French fries. Don't think about the salty French fries. Whatever you do, do not think about French fries right now. Right? When we say that, what's the first thing you're thinking about? French fries, right? So when we tell students, someone said, I want fries. Exactly. Yes. So when we tell someone, don't think about this, that's what they're going to think about. So what we really want to do is tell our students what we want from them, right? We want to go to those start requests versus those stop requests. So an example would be, let's go to the next slide. Again, keeping it short and simple and using terms that your child understands instead of saying, stop running in the house, right? We're telling them what we don't want them to do. Let's say, remember, we need to walk, right? So telling our student what we want. Because again, if we say, stop running in the house, then they're going to start doing jumping jacks in the house. They're going to start playing basketball in the house. They're going to start jumping rope across the hall in the house. So again, telling them what we want and making sure that when we tell them, if you could please unmute yourselves, mute yourselves, thank you. When we do tell them that they understand. So when we give them the start request, asking them to repeat it to make sure that they understood what we want from them. And then so important, which is sometimes difficult when we're escalated and when, especially if it's a behavior that has pushed our buttons, that we are neutral and non-emotional in the way that we respond. Because again, remember, we communicate not just through verbal, but also through our tone, right? Also through the way we say it, how we pause, how loud we speak. So making sure that it's neutral, non-emotional, and that but it's still a firm voice, right? So using start instead of stop request, really important. We want our children to know what we want from them. And now I'll go ahead and pass it over to Marianne.
Ya estoy echando
Marianne,
flores,
you're on mute.
Pardon me. Thank you. I was looking at the chat, and Miss Maisha Pink asked if this recording would be available, and Miss Saint Amant is recording, and at the end, I think you'll probably let people know how to access that, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So moving on, strategy 6. If we were in the classroom, I would ask who can remember anything, one of the 1 through 5s. But I'm going to remind you here, observing verbal and nonverbal messages, strategy 1, and we'll review them again. Strategy 2, providing verbal and visual reminders. Strategy 3, providing wait time. 4 was offering choices. Oh, good for you, Balbina. And we just reviewed giving a start request rather than a stop request. So 6 is avoiding a question format. So we touched on this earlier. So if you ask a yes or no question, then you're basically giving your child an opportunity to say no. And that sets up that good old power struggle. So similar to the other strategies that Anna just talked about, we're restating expectations that children need reminding in order to redirect or correct behavior. So rather than saying on this example, would you please clean up? And they can just say, nope, not doing it. Or they can just walk away. You would restate the expectation, it's time to clean up. And that sets things in motion for positively following through. Lets them know what you expect and they can move forward with that. And then we're going to move into strategy 7, which is breaking tasks into smaller parts. And it helps children stay on track and focus when the task has multiple steps. So even as adults, we sometimes have trouble following all the way through if something's too complicated or takes too long. So think about your child in the same way. How many steps does it take to finish this task? How long will it take them to do it? Are they capable of doing this on their own, or will they need support? And I'm sorry, we're on the next slide. And you can make things fun. You can use music or counting. Let's see if we can get this done by the time we count to 10. Let's do it together, folding your clothes. 1, 2, just making it into something that's manageable for them. So starting out saying, Johnny, look at me. Can you please put your backpack away? And that's a simple look at me, put your backpack away, and they can do that. So basically each child is different. They have different abilities and they evolve over time. So keep the considerations in mind of what your child can realistically handle and the amount of time it takes to complete the task, and simplify the task for their independence level. And we're going to do another check and connect. When can you imagine using start requests to support your child? What might be some good opportunities? You notice I'm using wait time. Okay, Ms. Granados, thank you. To start working on their homework assignments. Really good. So you even can set up a couple of things in front of homework. Before you do your homework, can you empty out your backpack and come to the fridge and grab a snack? And then you could start on your homework. And even doing the homework, breaking it down. You've got 10 sentences to write. Do you want to do 3 or 4? Break it down into smaller parts. Bedtime, Miss Balbina says, thank you. Absolutely. Bedtime can be many different steps. Okay, Mari Q says, I give time frames and how long. That's awesome. We'll start in 5 minutes. I love that. kids need a chance and need time to prepare themselves. So that's a great method. Tell a child what needs to be done before going to extracurricular classes. Yep. You're going to start your homework in 10 minutes. Okay. Miss Rivera, I even maybe alter that rather than you're going to start your homework in 10 minutes. Homework time starts in 10 minutes. It's just a fact rather than kind of a more or less a demand. But it's the same idea of giving them time enough to get ready for that. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing. And Anna is going to review with you and go through our 7 simple strategies.
Thank you, Mary Ann, and thank you for reviewing them. It is a lot. And if you really notice, all of you are utilizing so many of these strategies already, right? So hopefully this served as a refresher for some of the ones that maybe you had forgotten to use, maybe you used with your older child, and it's a good reminder to use with your little one. So again, just to review the 7 strategies we talked about, and again, going back to the idea of that 4-to-1, right? So the idea that all of us with our children and with each other should experience 4 times more positive interactions and corrective actions, right? So making sure that we really praise our children when they're doing what we want from them, that they really get that attention for the behaviors that we want and that we're not reinforcing the behaviors we don't want. And then when we are responding to behavior, that we're using these 7 strategies. So observing verbal and nonverbal messages, providing visual and verbal reminders, using wait time, offering choices, giving start requests instead of stop requests, avoiding a question format, because what's going to happen when we give them an option? They're going to say no, right? And then the last one is breaking tasks into smaller parts. So since we love doing these check-in connects and we really want to hear from you, what is it that you took away from our presentation today? Take a moment to reflect. What are you already doing to connect with your children? And maybe what strategy of the 7 that we discussed today was a good refresher for you? Or maybe like a, aha, oh my gosh, life-changing. I'm going to do this today. I can't wait for my child to get home so I could try this strategy. So which strategy are you going to use? Which one was an aha moment? Let's see what people are sharing in the chat. Yes, I believe it is going to be available online, Ms. Lopez. Thank you, Ms. Balbina. Okay, if anyone wants to share a strategy, whether it's the verbal, nonverbal messages, verbal and visual reminders, providing wait time, offering choices, 4-to-1. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Verbal and visual reminders. Thank you, Ms. Balbina. Ms. Ramirez, giving more options. Wonderful. I know, I think that's a big one that I have to remember to use as well, Ms. Ramirez. Something I'm already doing is not asking questions, but instead giving options. Wonderful, Ms. Rivera. Wait time and more options. Yes, the KISS acronym, it's a great one, right? Keep it short and simple. Start instead of stop request. Super helpful aha moment, providing wait time and avoiding a question format. Thank you. We need more on providing wait time and reminding my son to use his voice. Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Pena. And yes, wait time is, and if you notice, like Marianne stated when she asked the question, right, and we waited for people to type in the chat, there's that like awkward moment, right? We want an answer. We're like waiting to see what's going to go in the chat, but really giving people and our students and our children time to process what we asked of them and not jumping right away to assuming that they're not going to do what we asked because they didn't answer right away. Thank you so much. Okay, so hopefully you did learn some great strategies. We would definitely love your feedback, and we will give you, we are going to share in the chat, I believe, our website. I'll do that right now on this, Marianne, if you can share it. But we would love your feedback. We would love to know, if you notice on the left of the screen, you can either pull up your phone and use the QR code, or I'm going to go ahead and write in the chat also the feedback.
I got it, Anna.
You got it? Oh, perfect. Okay. And then on the right, we have our QR code for the Spanish feedback form. Please let us know, what worked, what did you enjoy? How do you feel about the presentation? What would you like to know more about? We would definitely love your feedback. So we'll give you we'll leave this one up. Oh, I'm looking at the time. We'll leave it up for another 30 seconds, but we also did put this in the chat. And I want to share one last slide because we think it's really important. So I'm going to give 20 more seconds. Put this one up on the screen.
Thank you, Ms.
Wow.
Ramirez. And Ms.
Mary Ann, 10:29, like 1 minute to go. Like, how amazing is that? Even with the technical difficulties,
Right.
this is awesome.
That's amazing. Thank you,
Okay.
Maricu. Thank you.
And so we did want to end with this quote that I can hopefully get going. So we have it in English and Spanish. You may have heard Maya Angelou. I have learned that people will forget what you said and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Wonderful quote. And then lastly, there is no such thing as a perfect parent, so let's just be a real one. No hay tal cosa como un padre perfecto, así es que solo sea un padre real. So we'll end with that. We'll turn it over back to Ms. Saint Amant, and thank you all so much. Yes, Marianne.
Before I'm going to type in Anna and my emails in the chat if there is anybody who'd like to communicate with us. Oh, type mine twice. If there's anybody who'd like to communicate with us or get any other details, please feel free to reach out. I know I got a few people's emails as we were going along who wanted a little bit more information, and I will follow up with you. And passing it over to Ms. Saint Amant.
Okay, we just really want to say thank you so much for this really timely and wonderful information. I know that the families we're just getting such wonderful feedback already in the chat. So just want to thank you so much for presenting today. I want to remind the families that this is the third in a series of the workshops that we've offered on social emotional learning, as well as positive behavior intervention and support and restorative practices. So we thank you for being here. We'll be offering one again next month, and I think we have 2 more after this. So this one and then 3 more. I believe it's 3 more after this. So we'll continue to keep you informed and let you know. Want to thank you once again for being here. Some of you were wondering about whether or not the workshops will be available. And yes, they are available. The recordings will be available. I put in the chat, I'll put it in again. But if you go to the local district central YouTube channel, you'll be able to find them there. We don't have a playlist for this yet, but we might just go ahead and create a playlist for our our positive behavior intervention support and restorative practices workshops. So thank you again for joining us. I want to also thank our interpreters, Ms. Brittany and Ms. Gloria Miguel. Thank you so much. And then also hand it off to my team.
Yes, ladies, I would like to say, coming from the parent, thank you very much for this wonderful workshop. It is comforting to know that that we all have the same kid, that the experience that we have, that we're going through with our own students, our own children, is mirrored elsewhere. That lets us know that if we continue to try our best and lead with the heart, follow the strategies, that we can make it, and we can continue to set a positive example for our own children. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. And parents, I mentioned it before, but we are also incorporating PBIS RP in the schools, and that is by request. So feel free to ask your administrators if they have incorporated this for staff yet. because the ideal is that we're bringing this both to school and to home. And that's how it works most effectively. Miss Saint Amant, you want to close us out, or Anna, you want to take it?
I think Miss Saint Amant, that's a lot of pressure on me, Marianne.
All right, so once again, I'm putting the recording link in the chat. And just want to thank you so much for joining us. And just to be on the lookout, if you want to know more about where the next date for the next workshop, please, I want to remind you to check your community of schools websites, check with your community reps at your schools, because they do have the information, and I'm sure they'll love to share it with you. So we'll be making sure that you know when the next one takes place. I also want to invite you to our LCAP meeting that is going to be taking place on Wednesday at 9:30 to 11:30. I don't have the slide up for it just right now, but just want to thank you getting toward the end. It's 10:35. We got to let everybody go. So I don't know if anyone else want to say something, but we're going to say goodbye. So thank you very much. And